Ben Smith is a pioneer in digital journalism. He launched New York's first political blog, posting news in real time and creating a groundbreaking section where readers could comment. He then became the senior political writer for Politico. He's now editor-in-chief of BuzzFeed.com, a website known for creating lists. It's now expanding coverage of serious news. Ben Smith, good morning.
Thanks for having me on.
Let's talk first about Twitter and the news kind of the day, because Twitter, what an IPO yesterday. I think it exceeded expectations, right?
Yeah, I mean, the market clearly, it's actually great for those of us who are in the news business. I mean, Twitter's basically a news platform, and this was a huge kind of bet on news and a bet on the notion that Twitter isn't just kind of this week's hot social network, but it's becoming part of like the plumbing of the internet.
Yeah, you and I are not too different in age. I'm 39, I think you're 36, but I remember when I first started out in journalism, we still had the wires that came out on a printer, and then we had to check the wires. And now Twitter in many ways serves as a news feed. But what about the flip side of that, which is that anybody could be a quote unquote journalist, and that so many mistakes are made as a result and spread so quickly?
I actually think those mistakes were basically always made. It's just that they didn't get caught. Nobody was, if the early hours of any breaking news story that any of us remember were always a total disaster. It's just there wasn't anybody like tweeting that you had gotten it wrong. I mean, I think that's certainly true in broadcast. Newspapers had the luxury that in the newsroom you'd go chase the wrong guy down, but you didn't have to write about it for a few hours.
Let's talk about, for people who haven't seen BuzzFeed, because the 33 animals that are extremely disappointed in you has already had over 2 million hits of people, myself included. For instance, this panda thought you were going to stand up to your boss just for once, and you've got all these cute pictures of animals saying these really cute, clever things. But now you're taking a turn, Ben. In addition to that, you want to get into investigative reporting, you want to get into politics, you want to get into real news, so to speak.
Yeah, I think our view is that the social web of Twitter and Facebook has kind of grown up, and we've grown up with it. That people, several years ago would be sharing cute pictures of, their animals, maybe somebody else's cute animal. But that, over the last few years, certainly in the 2012 presidential campaign, I think to some degree was certainly where we came of age and where Twitter came of age, and where, you have the candidates themselves, their staff, and basically this central news conversation happening on Twitter. And the kind of things that people share on those platforms are scoops or great reporting or the sort of things that journalists like to do.
But the notion is serious but fun. And is the thinking is someone might come and see the fun and then move over to the serious?
No, I think the thinking is that most people like both. We don't try to make you don't necessarily try to make Rand Paul's plagiarism fun,
which broke on your website.
Which we broke, and you don't try to make the cat serious. But I think our view is most people care about what's going on in the world, also love cute animals.
They recognize the difference.
Yeah, and they're capable of distinguishing them, and they're also comfortable seeing them all mixed up because that's what their Facebook feeds look like.
I don't know if you saw Bob Schieffer, of course, who was our host of Face the Nation, gave a great speech as he accepted the Walter Cronkite Award at Arizona State University, and he talked about what's changed in the news business over his career. And he said, we get more information, but access to information does not always equate with wisdom. Even worse, much of what we get is just wrong, not just wrong because somebody deliberately false, hateful, and meant to harm. Because it spreads so fast, don't you think that's a real concern with Twitter?
Yeah, I think that certainly it's basically what all readers now have access to is this messy, chaotic, often confused conversation that reporters always were, in on and trying to, and our job was to, take the best of it and then show it to people. Now people kind of see behind that curtain. And I do think then our job changes a little, and part of it is to assume that our viewers have seen all this crazy stuff, sometimes to debunk things that we know they've heard.
And then just to flip that, though, don't you think also Twitter gives you instant access to your own critics, a way to be self-critical in some ways about your own reporting? Yeah.
I do think there was like a great tradition in newspaper journalism that you would just like kind of make stuff up, like a couple of paragraphs. You'd make these broad generalizations about the country or about politics. And nobody's really calling you out for these these paragraphs 3 and 4, which are these sort of broad analytical statements. And now, Twitter is great. If there's BS in your article, someone will point that out to you politely and very fast.
And not anybody can get on BuzzFeed. Even your own son made a submission, I understand, and you said no. Can't put them on.
Well, he actually on Halloween he and I collaborated on a post about the worst treats. Somebody gave him pepper jack cheese spread on saltines.
And you said no.
Oh, Lord.
So we made a list.
Halloween?
Yes.
All right, Ben Smith. Congratulations. Congratulations,
Yeah,
BuzzFeed.
thanks, man.